going to work on sharing a bit of the information of what's been done so far, but also hosting some interactive conversations as well. So please, as much as you can, if you can keep your video open and just jump in and share. The session is as much about what we have to share as it is about what you have to share and your own experience. And yes, I'm going to also thank Alejandra and Alexandra, our colleagues from our team, the FACS team within the community of practice, for helping us set this event and for your support all the way throughout it with the technical aspects and also the content in the chat box. Finally, we would love to welcome those of you who haven't joined yet to join the Food and Agricultural Commodity Systems community, and you'll get the information on the chat as well for that. So thank you very much. And let me start sharing my presentation. Thank you, Nicolas, also for joining from the FACS team. Nicolas is actually one of the creators of the Farmer Support Systems Toolkit, so it's good to have the mastermind behind the key input that we are going to share today and discuss, which is the Farmer Support Systems Toolkit. Excellent, thank you, and welcome those of you who have already shared their names, their locations, where you're based, and which organization you're joining us from. I'm gonna now move into sharing my screen. Sorry, here's the presentation. Yeah. Yes, so I'm gonna introduce myself very quickly. I'm Maria Soledad, you can call me Sole. I'm the Effective Collaborative Action lead advisor for the Food and Agriculture Commodity Systems team. And my work is basically to support countries and projects, global, regionally, to bring participative, collaborative, and what we call systems-based approaches to food and agriculture projects and initiatives. In this case, this problem-solving workshop, methodology, and the Farmer Support Systems Toolkit are different ways in which we can practically bring in that approach to how do we facilitate collaboration? How do we make processes around improving farmer extension services more inclusive and more participative? And well, all of this work is related to that kind of support that we provide as the FACS team globally to different countries and different projects. We today are I'm going to very briefly share some of the insights from the previous workshops and what's been done so far to set the context. Then we're going to ask you to reflect in small groups. What are the key challenges that you're facing in terms of farmer support systems in your own countries, in your own work, and what are the things that you feel need to be looked at more in detail? And then we're going to share what the UNDP Farmer Support Systems Toolkit might have to offer, and also this problem solving workshop methodology might have to offer to those challenges. And then we're going to come together to reflect on, yes, it makes sense, it doesn't, where else you might want or need support, what opportunities you might see for using this kind of toolkit, and we will be closing after that. So how did this path of accelerating innovation for farmer extension services began? Basically, under the global GEF project FOLUR, our team within the Good Growth Partnership provides support to the global platform of these 27 countries that are part of FOLUR. And one of the areas that we provide support is around collaboration, systems change, and innovative thinking. And particularly when it came to farmer extension services, we know there's a lot of discussions and a lot of debate and a lot of challenges on farmer support systems. We also know that it's a huge need, a topic to be addressed under this global project. And so we asked ourselves, how can we work on this topic in a different way? How can we add value to have deeper conversations and deeper understanding of what the challenges are, but also how can we facilitate spaces where people can think outside of the box and bring innovation and connect with each other across the globe? So, how do we bring a different approach? And the question that we were trying to respond to then was, how do we enable the capacity to think differently about farmer extension services challenges in our country teams and key stakeholders? And so that's how the UNDP FACTS team, together with consultants, developed the problem-solving workshop methodology using this integrated approach, what we call, so connecting different methodologies like design thinking that you might have heard of, systems thinking. Again, I don't want to get into that kind of jargon and terminology, but how do we bring different methodologies that can steer innovation, and how can we apply them specifically to farmer extension services? And that's where the UNDP Farmer Support Systems Toolkit came as part of the mix. And how do we create these spaces that are experiential, that allow for people to play with different ideas and give ourselves the chance to really think outside of the box beyond the day-to-day implementation of projects? So experiential learning, prototyping, application to real life situations. So all of this got into the mix. We came up with this problem-solving methodology, which was also intended to provide a methodology that anyone could later on use and apply in their own countries. So this problem-solving methodology is not just for us to facilitate, but rather for you to take on in your own countries with your own stakeholders, to, as we are facilitating this innovative thinking process, you can do the same thing with your own stakeholders. We conducted 3 workshops, as you can see, between June and February 2024, and I would like to share some of the inputs of those workshops in a minute. But just before we jump into that, I think this framework is really important because it's the grounding, the grounding on the technical discussion on what are the key areas, how do we understand what are the key areas and the key pain points in terms of farmer extension services. And what we did within the FACTS team for FOLUR, but obviously this can be applied again to any kind of project, to your own country, to your own initiative. We took the farmer extension services, the farmer support services analytical framework, which is what you can see here. These 5 dimensions: enabling environment, organizational and management capacity, advisory methods, budgeting and financing, and M&E and learning. And we looked at all the products of the 27 countries, and we mapped what were all the challenges that had been pre-identified for those countries. And we came up with these 13 challenges, which again, we think are quite relevant and useful for anyone that's working on farmer extension services. So this also provides you with some kind of guidance on when you think about challenges, what are some ideas of typical challenges that you would see emerging from farmer extension services locally. All of this information will be provided to you. This presentation will be shared. So I'm conscious there's a lot of text in it and no need to read it at this point. So out of the 13 challenges, we prioritized 3, and we provided these 3 challenges as the prototyping and the anchor for the different groups that attended the problem-solving workshops to work on as real case studies that they could go through the process of problem solving and coming up with solutions. Again, another way of using this methodology that we are trying and exploring right now is it doesn't have to respond to any of these 13 challenges. It can also be a specific challenge that emerges from a project. So for example, now we are supporting a project in Ghana, which is struggling to come up with a way of creating multi-stakeholder collaborative platforms for six different areas, HIAs, and so the struggle here is that the connectivity, these are 6 areas that are very difficult to connect people from one to the other. And so we are thinking of using this problem-solving workshop methodology to convene people from Ghana to come up with different solutions around how to address that issue of connectivity. So again, it doesn't have to be one of these particular 13 challenges. It can be something really, really tailored and specific to the country or the project that you're working on. And I feel like I've talked a lot, but actually I think it would be great to share with you what other people that have been either facilitating this methodology or participating in it have shared of how they've lived through the process, what their key insights have been, and any other relevant feedback. So I'm going to now hopefully share the video and let me know if you can hear it.
We were created with the main goal of develop a genuine model for agriculture and livestock for tropical conditions, because we didn't have this. We have focused on provide innovation, research, development solutions for agriculture. Then we have to bring together all these other players in Brazil, private and public services and universities. So we built all this network to work, and then we could develop a genuine model of tropical agriculture and then establish the ways of this research and this scientific knowledge get to the farmers. So there's no meaning if we generate all this innovation if it don't reach the farmers.
Juan Manuel Pareja, he is a extensionist service provider from the National Federation of Coffee Growers here in Colombia. There are 3 things important in the extension. So the first is the person that provides the services should be very well prepared in terms of knowledge, in terms of practices. Second, his work should be aligned with the life purpose, that is aligned with the person that's signing life. What is his big picture of purpose? And the third thing is the motivation. If there's motivation there, the service can be provided in a very good point. So those 3 things are key issues that Juan is bringing over the table.
We are trying so hard to connect to the FOLUR country projects teams and hear what they're doing and understand how we can help. And it just really struck me yesterday that this process is very powerful. And I would love to do it with at least a few country project teams, because this is a very cool process. I really like it. Thanks.
So I'm going to stop there for a minute because I'm conscious that there are people that have participated. If you don't mind just raising your Zoom hand, those who have participated before. I know Malika did. I think Michael, did you participate as well? I can't remember. We had also Uchi, but I think he dropped off. So yeah, Malika, would you like to start maybe and share what your experience was of this process? I don't think we can hear you, Malika. I think you're on mute. Sorry, thank you.
Is this better?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, like they said, it's a powerful tool to work with. and I learned a lot. And even with my thinking, and I looked back to my experience with a different perspective. I actually tried to use this method, but in just in a very small project, and it worked really wonderful because we really went in deep into the problem. And I was with growers and some extension service representative were there, and they all embarked in the discussion, and we could agree on something. And we are trying now to put the solution into the ground. So I can let you know maybe in the future if we really worked on the solution, because we brought up what needs to be done from the methodology. With the methodology, I was the animator, so I told them, and I talked about the group with the animator from Brazil, Natiana, her name. She did very great job. So that's my experience, and I hope it answers your question.
Absolutely, Malika, and thank you so much, because this is so rich, and also a very positive note of encouraging other people to take this work and just make it their own and get out there and facilitate it and animate it. As you very well say, sometimes these kind of processes can feel a bit daunting, because where do I start and how do I play that role of facilitator? But it's just about holding the space and bringing people together. And as you very well say, once you do that, people take over and good ideas come out. So I'll definitely follow up with you, because I'm keen to hear more details about how you implemented this in your own work. Anyone else that joined? Thank you so much, Malika. Anyone else that joined past sessions? I have the recollection, Michael, that maybe you were joining one of the workshops, but I'm not 100% sure if that's the case, or if you can hear me. Maybe not. Anyways, yeah, there you are, Michael. Hi. Oh, mute again. This is like virtual hide and seek. Can you hear me, Michael?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Perfect. Yes, I was part of I joined the working group, and I've tried to implement what I gained from the group in my community here in Uganda, and so far it is good. We are going on well, and it has been very helpful to me and my community here in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael, for sharing. And yes, we might reach out to you then individually as well to get more insights into how you've been implementing this work. Okay, excellent. Any questions that anyone might have to either Malika or Michael, or to us in terms of what's been discussed so far and what's been done? I will share a bit more information. So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and open your mic and share, or also use the chat if that's helpful. But I will continue to share a bit more, and that might also spark some questions. Oops. Okay. So, so as I said, the process walks through participants through a step-by-step of looking at the challenges, unpacking those challenges, and then slowly but surely brainstorming on trying to think that creative outside of the box thinking, allowing ourselves to be a little crazy into ideas that we might not necessarily entertain on our day-to-day jobs of following project plans and concrete deliverables, and then narrowing that down into, okay, what would be one final idea that we would take on if we had, obviously, if this process were to continue. And so there were lots of different really creative ideas that came up. I remember one that I was facilitating was around, in this issue of connectivity around farmers and remote areas and communities. My group came up with this idea of having like a radio channel, because that particular country and region, they would use radio a lot and they would listen to radio a lot. And it was one of the few things that actually got to the different areas and communities in terms of communication channel. And so they came up with this idea of creating like a radio channel where information and practices around farmer extension services would be shared, and there would be knowledge exchange between different communities within the region. And so using that existing capacity to hear to the radio and how the radio was bringing families and communities together as a way of communicating and capacity building. These are some examples that you can see on the screen, when talking about enabling adequate access to extension services, and the lacking of coordination among government, private sector, and cooperatives. A group came up with this idea of putting together a national network and using the relevant knowledge and the external services and connect these with each other and also to global platforms. So they came up with this really beautiful connectivity map of what needs to be connected with what and how that would be implemented. There was another one that was really, really smart in terms of, we were talking about the challenge around youth employment and engagement in the farms and in the activity of farming, and how the livelihoods of younger generations, younger people are not necessarily seeing their livelihoods and their progress in farming. And so there was this idea of creating a youth-based extension services offer and development. So using the power of the younger generations within the community to really activate and improve extension services. With all the capacity, the digitalization as well, and bringing that innovative aspect as well. And then there was a third example that we added here, around communication and promoting awareness raising campaigns and incentives on the impact of the environmental, social, and economic impacts of land degradation. So again, these are just examples. It's a world of possibilities, right? When you look at problem solving and different methodologies like design thinking and hackathons, they're just instruments. These are some other feedback and inputs that we got from participants, and we're more than happy to share these, as I said on the presentation. And yeah, the idea with this is not just to share the experiences of others, but also to connect with your own experience and your own needs. So the key takeaways that we had from the implementation so far is that creating this space for collaboration and bringing in people from different backgrounds helped participants connect with people, ideas, and ways of doing and thinking that we don't connect on a day-to-day basis. So bringing that fresh perspective and different realities. At the same time, it also responded to that idea of, oh, I'm not alone. When I think this challenge is unique to me, I can hear that other people in other countries are struggling with the same thing. So it's about the diversity of ideas, but it's also the sort of sharing the challenges that brought people together. The other key takeaway was that the process of tackling the challenge from the root, while considering other stakeholders involved and the bigger, broader picture, was conducive to thinking outside of the box. This is all coming from feedback that we got from participants and some interviews and surveys that we conducted. And then the other thing was that people found this process quite engaging and beneficial. So if you're thinking that part of your work is to ask your stakeholders or to come up with solutions on farmer extension services, and you can do it either the traditional way, which is putting together a presentation and sharing it, or convening a regular meeting and having an unstructured conversation, or bringing in some of this fun, interactive, structured process into it, there might be some benefit in doing the latter. And as we said, the goal is to empower and inspire people to apply this process, as Malika did and as Michael did. Now, enough of me talking. We are going to invite you to think of these ideas and this process in terms of how it can be useful to you. So in breakout groups, which Alejandra is kindly putting together, we are going to invite you to just have a conversation around identifying a specific farming related challenge that you faced or that you are familiar with, and just explain to each other, give a little bit of context, how this issue is affecting productivity, environmental sustainability, or the socio-economic well-being in your project and country. And what specific improvements or support would you like to see to help address this issue? So we're not yet getting into how can the problem-solving workshop methodology help you or the farmer support systems help you, but rather think broadly, yeah? What's a challenge that you faced? And what specific improvements or support you think could help in addressing these key issues. And what we are going to kindly ask you to do as well is, if you can, it would be really helpful to you and to the process to just take notes of what's coming up in these Google Slides, because it helps, again, not just talk about something, but also document the ideas and really make that process of from talking to writing that helps narrow down and synthesize a little bit the information, which again is also part of the problem-solving methodology. So I believe that Alejandra has shared the questions and the link to the Google Docs. So yes, Ale, please, if you can send us to the little breakout groups, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
They're open now, so participants can join them.
Have you assigned me, Ale? Would you like me to join one? Or I don't know if there's...
As you wish, Sole. I didn't assign you.
Okay.
Because as a co-host, I made it so that you are not part of it, unless you want to. I can send you to one if you wish.
Oh, no, it's okay. No worries. I can also jump in and out. And I guess we can share as well from our side. Yeah, would you like to share? I can see, Nicola, that you were just starting with Zoe. Any thoughts or sharing that you would like to offer?
No, we were just getting into the interesting conversation after nice introduction. But no, we were talking about the challenge of collaboration between public and private, which have competing message sometimes for farmers. And Chapter was explaining, for example, they is in Eastern Uganda, and they are convening a forum for the district officials to meet with the private. Is that correct? And his organization, Ed Environment, is facilitating this convening and this conversation. And Zoe was just starting to explain, she works with FAO, with Farmer Field School, what yeah, what are the challenge of public-private when it comes to capacity building? Maybe over to you, Zoe, because I think it's relevant for the rest of the group as well.
Okay, thank you. So sorry for joining late. So yes, I was just mentioning one of the challenges maybe, well, first of all, there are different interests between the public and the private sector. And that different interests can also transmit different messages. And I think if you work on an intervention, well, I'm thinking mainly on pesticides because the private sector on pesticides is very strong. And if you spend a couple of years in a project on integrated pest management and, you know, trying to build capacities of farmers on that, sometimes government can also pass a couple of years later with some free pesticides for farmers, and also tell contradicting information and working with the private sector. So that can be a challenge. I don't know if I explain myself really well, but yeah.
Yeah, completely. And I think I've seen a lot of competing message like that. Also, you know, you also have the overlap sometimes. So either it's competing in terms of message, and sometimes you have the overlap where everyone is developing their own farmer guides or farmer training material, you know, on sustainability, on regenerative agriculture, on integrated pest management. And you're going to have different actors spending money, developing guides, but not talking to each other. And so I think the forum that is being made in Eastern Uganda is very useful to avoid those type of things. But yeah, I'm an entomologist by training, and I worked a lot on integrated pest management, and it's definitely an issue when the pesticide company are coming after and pass a different message. Anyone else wants to share an experience on the challenge of public-private collaboration, maybe? If not, back to you, Solène.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it would be great to hear any other thoughts or ideas on that particular challenge. I mean, from our side, or in respect to that challenge, in other sessions, what we've heard as well is this single commodity or single crop approach as well versus the multiple crops and the integrated landscape management. So this idea of coming to the farmer with a much more integrated offer versus receiving different extensionists coming focus on one particular crop one week and another one coming the next week on another crop, and so that's also not helpful and a waste of resources basically. And I think one of the groups was actually trying to address that challenge particularly. So it was very interesting to see how the combination of sectors would work in that sense, right? So not just looking at cocoa, but looking at coffee and cocoa together. And the other thing from a public and private joint venture, basically, I remember one group was talking about how extensionism shouldn't be seen as only the services that are around the crop itself, but also the livelihood, right? So how do we look at the whole ecosystem of services around a farmer that are required to ensure a good livelihood so that the next generations feel that they have a future as well? So looking at health, looking at education, looking at access to technology, not only from a technology into farming, but looking at financing, at business development. So broadening the understanding of extension services as well. From our group, we had two different, I would say, angles. One angle was the gender and social inclusion, and a very strong challenge that we see in many countries, which is the inclusion of women, and how difficult it is because of the structural barriers, cultural, how farming operates, and the traditions. So we started discussing a little bit about that. And we also had, I think, one member of our team left, but we also had Elizabeth sharing a bit more about some of the capacity building done in her own spaces to improve the measuring and the indicators around farmer extension services and looking at impact as well. So anyone else would like to share a bit more on what was discussed in their own groups, or even your own thinking?
Maybe just a comment on the multi-commodities. I think that's the key challenge here of integration, because there's so many topics to talk about. And my experience is even within one commodity, like you work on cocoa or on coffee or whatever, you have multiple actors providing training on different things. So, even if you just focus on cocoa, for example, you might have a training on productivity, one on child labor, one on gender, one on sustainability, one on marketing, and and sometimes it's given by different organizations that are competing for time, competing in terms of message as well. So I fully agree it needs to be integrated, yet the range of topics is so big that it's challenged. I mean, and that's why you have things like Farmer Field School, which are trying to integrate multiple topics into one space or one group. Yeah, anyway, I see.
Oh, you muted yourself, but yeah, absolutely. It's where do you set the limits, right? And the boundary to the territory that you want to work on. Yes, Andrea, over to you.
Yes. So hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I come from the private sector, so the challenges are definitely very different. I'm very, very new to this topic. So I joined and I'm happy because I guess this kind of methodology will help me. I haven't read it yet. I haven't read the case studies, but I look forward to it because the main challenge I discussed with Malika, Kavita, and Debajyoti is that we purchase a lot of raw materials. I work in the fragrance industry, so we have raw materials from all over the world. And basically, I gave them a case in which I have a supplier from China that we've been in conversations with him since 3 years, telling them showing them good agricultural practices, teaching about the European regulation and legislations, and etc. It's a really an ongoing conversation. So we advised him to do this type of certification for the raw material we purchase. So he did everything. Like we saw the progress from year 0 to year 3, and he achieved the certification, etc. So we have a beautiful quality of raw material, and in the end, the buyers don't purchase this certified quality. So this is my challenge every day, is that I really try to help. We try to help my team, the suppliers, to really get the best, etc. But in the end, yeah, it costs. It's too expensive, and I really struggle. There are some buyers that I managed to convince, and I told them about the case in IT in which the buyers bought the certified quality, but because literally the supplier said, guys, the farmers cannot eat this crop. It's only used for the fragrance industry. So I don't want to arrive to such extreme cases in which, so I really struggle with that internally. But it's, as I said, little by little, maybe the methodology can help me to influence influence the buyers, the mentality, to get them back to the reality. Because in my work, I really try to always put the farmer in front. But sometimes, in the private sector, it's not. It's a real challenge. So, yeah, I struggle to also put the questions, but I will write them on the Google slides.
That's okay. Thank you, Andrea. And I think you're raising such an important point, because that is the heart of why we are proposing a much more participatory process, right? Because another challenge that we see in farmer support systems is that they tend to be quite unilateral in the sense of one actor driving such support in the way that they think should be done and for the purposes that they have in mind with the best of intentions. So, and how that's quite limiting in the sense that because this is so systemic, whatever solution or whatever approach we want to take, it's important to bring in the different actors from the very beginning to come up with what is that balance and sweet spot between the needs of the farmers, the needs of the private sector, what's realistic, what's feasible, how do you move from or evolve from where you are to where you want to be. Otherwise, yeah, it's you build up towards a goal, but then when you reach that goal, the other actors are not responding in the way that you are hoping they would respond.
No, and another challenge, I give an example, like L'Oréal is one of our clients. They do a lot of talking. So actually, if you bring them in this type of conversations and showing them how the farmer live, how all that, they're going to bite in it because they love these kind of stories. But the thing is, how do you get into these conversations? How do you put that in place? Because they will put the money. I mean, they have it, right? They make a lot of money. But internally, it's like they really praise L'Oréal. They are like, oh, but this client is so precious. They only like want to protect them from the on-ground reality, which is so dumb because, yeah, I don't know. It's really finding that sweet spot, as you say. Yeah. But yeah, if you have advices and recommendations, for sure, I'm sure, yeah, the case studies will help me and to really do it with the methodology. Thank you.
I can share quickly certification experience, maybe. I mean, it's very tricky because, well, first, like Sol said, involving everyone, convening the different actors together with the entire value chain is important. Then you get the different views. So getting the views of the farmers, also getting the views of the private sector. And there's a lot of time that needs to be invested in building the business case for sustainability. Like, why would I buy this product that might be more expensive? What's the business case for that? And that's tricky. And people follow the market, etc. So, but if you have a space where people can talk together and share experience, that goes a long way. So, for example, we did that on cotton, and we had a governance structure to certify cotton that involved, all the actors in the chain. So the farmers association, the traders, the retailers, so all the way, because sometimes private sector means nothing. Yeah, private sector is such a heterogeneous group that includes people at, the intermediaries, mid-level, etc. And they will have very different perspective. A trader will have a very different perspective than a retailer, than a buyer, etc., etc. So how do you make sure that you get all those views? Usually goes a long way, but there will always be different views and perceptions. So it takes time and effort, but for people to pay more, they need to be convinced that that's good for their business in the long term. And so that's usually my experience is that we don't invest enough time in building that case, and then nobody's buying the product, and a lot of efforts are made for nothing, which is very frustrating for farmers. That's just, we can talk about that for a long time, but just a quick sharing. But I'm sure others in the group here have experience also.
Thank you, Nicola.
Yes, absolutely. And let's keep sharing, but maybe now it's also a good time to move into the last sharing from our side of the Farmer Support Systems Toolkit and how these needs that we've identified or these challenges, where does the toolkit and the problem-solving workshop meet these challenges and how it can support. So first of all, as Nicola was mentioning and as we discussed during the sharing, there is a need to build that business case for working around farmer support systems more collaboratively and more systemically and also systematically. So all of that. And one of the ways in which we position that from a UNDP standpoint is that food and agriculture is very much connected to development. So, and you can use this information as well in your own presentations and work if helpful, but agriculture as such accounts for 70% of freshwater use. It's responsible for more than 80% of global deforestation at this point. Drivers linked to food production cause 70% of terrestrial biodiversity loss. Agriculture accounts for 60% of the labor force and producing 25% of the GDP in low-income countries. And over 2/3 of people surviving on less than $1 a day live and work in rural areas, either as smallholder farmers or agricultural laborers. So as you can see, the practice of agriculture as such and the food production is very much connected to sustainable development. And all of these items that I've just described cannot be looked at individually. They're all connected with each other. Yeah, we're talking about social, economic, and environmental development and the intersection of those dimensions. And so when we look at the Farmer Support Systems Toolkit, we think about these broad numbers and challenges, and then we go zoom into the reality of the farmer, right? As we've done right now, or the reality of that private sector company, or the reality of government at a district level or at a national level. And so how can Farmer Support Service Toolkit help? Well, firstly, it's intended to facilitate multi-stakeholder collaboration and dialogue, as we said, to give some kind of methodology to the process of opening up those conversations that we were talking about and facilitate them in a way that's participatory and inclusive. It's intended to bring that systemic change mindset. So instead of looking at things in isolation, looking at things as a whole. And if you remember, I'm gonna very quickly share the analytical framework. I think one of the beauties of the analytical framework actually is that it's intended for us to think about farmer support systems from all of these multiple dimensions, and not just training, not just certification, not just fertilizers, not just capacity building, access to technology or financing, but rather how do we look at all of that as an integrated service that's provided to farmers that needs to be connected. Yeah. So the other thing is that the Farmer Support Services Toolkit provides a way of doing what we call a joint diagnosis. So there's a tool within this Farmer Support Services, which is a scorecard. There are different items that are included for each dimension and each component in each dimension, like statements that are offered and in different ways, online or face-to-face. Those items help bring in the different perspectives of different actors in terms of how things are working. And I'll show you that in a minute. But basically, the tool is meant to lead to this joint diagnosis, investigation, or agreement on solutions from a multiple stakeholders perspective and not just from one actor. It's also intended to support the elaboration of an updated collective vision, strategies, implementation plans at different levels, national, subnational, landscape. And this all facilitates the collective action in a way. So again, how do we look at this from a more integrated perspective? A reminder of that analytical framework. So each of the dimensions, as you can see, the 5 dimensions on the top, each one of them has different elements to it. And within those components, there are descriptors that are used to make this joint assessment and analysis. How does a process of activating farmer support systems look like in practice? Well, this is just basically a high-level plan of how it could be done. Obviously, there's a phase of preparation, where UNDP gets involved, a first iteration with a group of representatives from different actors. In this case, we're calling it a farmer support forum. So some kind of group ideally is convened to activate this multi-stakeholder space to improve farmer support systems. Then there's an assessment that's done, bringing in the different perspectives of the multiple actors, and a study based on the inputs through this scorecard that I shared. Then there's, with that input, that collective assessment, a collaborative decision making where a implementation plan and a budget comes together, and then obviously joint implementation that leads to a periodical review of what's been done, and reporting and documenting and learning. As I was saying, for each component of the analytical framework, there are a number of statements that help assess how different stakeholder groups perceive the level of strength of each component. So in this case, for example, we're taking from the component 1 vision of the dimension enabling environment. There's a question around what's the level of shared vision for national and subnational extension services. And let me see if I can show you this in a bigger screen, because this is quite important. Basically, through an online self-assessment or a face-to-face, you can see here the different colors. So these are the ratings: no, very limited, limited, satisfactory, and the different colors are showing the responses aggregated by stakeholder group. What does this mean? That we can see in one picture for this particular statement how the different actors think about this. So for example, in the case of, is there a shared vision for national and subnational extension services? In this case, we can see that private sector, 75% of private sector respondents are saying that this is satisfactory, yeah? Whereas farmers, well, and this is obviously just an example, but it says 100% of farmers are saying no. Numbers here don't add up, but just to give you a sense of what we're trying to recreate here, which is this kind of joint diagnosis is a great opportunity to really visually show how what you might think is working from your perspective as a particular actor in the system might be completely challenged by a different actor in the system who has a completely different view, and you might not be aware of that. So that, for us, that is the basis and the ground for initiating dialogue and saying, okay, we have different perspectives. What do we see here as? And as you can see, the scorecard allows for adding some comments and some recommendations for strengthening, which comes from that dialogue process within different stakeholders. So this, to me, is one of the key strengths of the Farmer Support Service toolkit. The capacity and the possibility to provide through data to evidence the different and contradicting perspectives and open up the space for discussion and debate. And as such, it is a mechanism to enable participation. Then there's obviously different templates. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the previous slide that I was sharing. The other aspect that I would say is quite key is that if you feel that tackling the whole of the 5 dimensions and all the components is a lot, then you can also use the toolkit as a way of zooming in to a specific component or dimension that is most relevant to you and to your work under farmer support. So as you can see, there are many different ways in which this can be used. Finally, even if you don't go through the process as such, the analytical framework, just by having a look at the analytical framework and the statements within each component, you can get a sense of, okay, these are the things that I need to pay attention to when I'm bringing this more holistic perspective to farmer extension services. So in a nutshell, how can a process or a toolkit like farmer support services help? Is by assessing and diagnosing the current state of farmer support systems using this analytical framework and the diagnosis scorecard, bringing that participative, inclusive way, gathering data, evidence, and something that you can share and showcase. The other thing is that it can provide you with a comprehensive and systems-based framework to design and implement projects and initiatives or collaborative spaces where farmer support is a key component, or it can be used to zoom in a specific component or dimension that is most relevant to you and your work under farmer support. So this is in a nutshell what we feel can be helpful and useful in this process. Yeah, if you have any thoughts or any ideas on, now that you've thought about the different challenges that you face in your own work, and we've shared what others have done in terms of the problem-solving methodology, the farmer support systems toolkit, what it can offer, what are your thoughts about how you could take this on further? And maybe Andrea, we can pass it over to you, since we've discussed a bit. Well, it was the last example that we discussed on more specifically.
Yes, sorry, I was reading the chat at the same time you told my name, so I'm so sorry. Can you repeat?
No, it's okay, no worries. So the question is, now that we've gone through this process of looking at what was done in the past and sort of the challenges that we face, and we went through the farmer support systems toolkit, how do you think this could be of help to you? What would you use it for?
So first of all, actually I was, so I'm leaving the company in July, in 2 months. But my idea is really to, first of all, I'm going to share like the link of like the methodology with my colleagues, but really my boss is fully supporting me. And I'm developing like a lot of tools, like a folder with different toolkits that she can use. And I will train also many colleagues. So I want to talk about this, because I feel like this graph that you showed with 100% farmers and then the private sector saying, yes, it's striking, right? It really shows how far we are from the reality. And I definitely think it will help me a lot. But yeah, that's my plan, basically. Ideally, my boss, in any case, they are going to do a sustainability seminar, joint sustainability seminar between, I mean, fragrances, but also flavors. And I'm really close with both teams of sustainability. So I will talk about this toolkit and really try to set at least the seed of a workshop that Nicolas said, that it would be very interesting to have all stakeholders from the value chain to discuss on these matters of how can we do to purchase, building the business case to purchase the certified material. Yeah, so that's my plan.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. And I believe Alejandra shared on the link, on the chat, sorry, the links to the toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
And you should find the toolkit there, and also the self-assessment scorecard. So yeah, all of that is available. And you can always reach out to us as well if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Zoe, I'm wondering, because it would be great to hear from you as well, and your perspective. How do you think this could be helpful, if any, in any way, for the work that you are doing on the farmer field schools?
Yes, could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes. How do you feel or think the farmer support systems toolkit could be of help to you and the work that you are doing?
Sorry, I I didn't follow last conversations as I was replying to an email, but if I understood correctly, I mean, we focus mainly on capacity building for farmers, and I mean, this toolkit could go in the same direction and could be used in collaboration with the FFS approach. And maybe that could be something that we could explore working together on that.
Yeah, sounds good. So definitely you could look into either zooming in on capacity building across the dimensions or focusing on one particular dimension that aims at looking at capacity building as such, or yeah, using the scorecard potentially to get some insights on what different stakeholder groups think about the state of capacity building. So yeah, there are very, very different ways. But thank you for bringing that anchor in capacity building as well. I'm wondering also if from a farmer field school perspective, there's also an element around gender and social inclusion that could be explored. How are you looking at that currently?
Yeah, definitely. Lately, it's been one of our priorities to. So, farmer field schools have always been gender sensitive. Let's say as they tackle, social dynamics and dynamics in the community. They've always helped to ease up conversations and facilitate exchanges between members of the community. But we found out that there is still a lot of work to be done regarding gender and gender equality in FFS, because sometimes programs, they insert gender as a special topic, but it's not really gender transformative in the sense that it's not integrated throughout the whole program and program formulation and even in the monitoring and evaluation, you should have disaggregated gender data and intentionally look at it and try to work on it. So in the Global FFS platform, we started a collaboration and cooperation with CARE. They don't do FFS per se, they do farmer field and business schools, but their two focus is gender and market. And so we started working with them to start producing material and seeing how FFS can really become gender transformative. So this is a bit where we're at. And now that you've brought that up, we have actually a webinar this week on gender and FFS. If you're interested to join, we will speak about that, and we'll speak about the recent evolution of FFS regarding gender and gender transformative approaches.
Thank you so much, Zoe, for sharing that. If you have any link to that that you can share on the chat.
Sure.
Because I think Yotsna, I don't know if you can hear me at this point, but I think that would be very useful as well for you, because with Yotsna, we were talking about the challenge of gender inclusion in India. So I think that would be fantastic if we could sort of continue exploring this from a farmer support systems angle. And just also to share that within FOLUR and as part of our service, our FACS team service, as the providers of support and capacity building on the global platform, there's also a guidance on gender equality and gender mainstreaming in landscape within integrated landscape management processes. So I think that would be really nice to kind of have that exchange of ideas and work and tools. I'm looking for it. Sorry that I'm a bit clunky at the moment, news and resources, but I'm just looking at the link to share on the chat on this gender. gender tool. Yeah, a resource guide for gender equality for FOLUR. There it is. So I'll share that link there, and really keen to connect more with you, Zoe, on this.
Sure, yeah,
Excellent.
that would be great.
Yeah, and I'm going to definitely sign up for the webinar. Will you be facilitating it, Zoe?
I want it will be my colleague Suzanne that will be facilitating it. Yeah, so it's going to be a joint webinar between the Global Farmer Fiscal Platform, CARE International, and the Gender and Inclusion team of FAO. And it's gonna show the result of a recent stock-taking that we've been carrying out on gender and FFS.
Oh, excellent. So we can also share this on our digital platform. So we have a food and agriculture commodity systems community of practice. And we have a digital platform there with more than 500 members. So yeah, potentially,
nice.
Ale, if you think, yeah, if you think we can post this, I'll actually share the link there as well.
If you want, I can also send you the flyer and the invitation, so you have a ready to share email with all the information.
That would be great. I'm gonna put my email address on the chat, and you can just send it there if you want. And I'll make sure Alejandra, as the representative of our community of practice team, is also included. Thank you. Excellent. So, just to say, these are the kind of exchanges and things that only happen if we create the spaces for dialogue, collaboration, brainstorming, creative thinking. And so to me, the most important and added value of the problem-solving workshop methodology or the farmer support systems toolkit is actually that these are ways in which you can create those spaces in a sort of following some kind of guidance or methodology. It's not the only way, it's not the way, it's just one way. But the invitation overall is to potentially take that opportunity to create these spaces for different thinking, for exchange of information, practices, so that we can actually have more innovation and creative thinking on the farmer support systems improvement. Anything else? I'm conscious of time, and I think we might be ready to part ways, but really keen to hear if anyone has any final comments or questions before we close the session. Nicola, maybe over to you, because you've been the creator of the Farmer Support Systems Toolkit. So what are your thoughts in terms of or what was your dream and vision when you created it?
Not sure about the dream and vision, but thanks for holding the space today, Soleil. I think, recognizing that a lot of people are working on this, yeah. So we're not inventing anything, looking at this with humility. We developed the guide really to support the practitioners we're working with, such as with FOLUR and other projects, to work more collaboratively, because we see a lot of overlaps, a lot of competition, and that's detrimental for impact. But colleagues from FAO have been working on that for many years. They've been looking at extension from the angle of collaboration, from the angle of holistic frameworks such as the Farmer Field School. So we're all trying, to support the process and support farmers. It's a challenging area. But yeah, I think I'm on my side, I'm very happy to have this type of connections and especially sharing the experience across countries, because it's very different, what's happening in India or in Uganda or in Brazil. Yet at the same time, sometimes we by sharing those experiences, we realize that we face similar challenges, and learning from each other is always useful. So thank you for the space. Soleil, I see that Malika has a hand raised.
Yes.
So maybe let's hear from her as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicola. And yes, over to you, Malika.
Yeah, well, I put the question in the chat. I was just wondering if it is a way to create, to have help from UNDP to create a space in Morocco, because it seems that the toolkit is not really known around me, at least, and I'm in agriculture area. Is there a way? Thanks.
Thank you, Malika, for sharing that. And yes, absolutely. Shall we follow up with you on that bilaterally? We
Yeah,
can
sure.
definitely think of ways. Yeah, we would love that. I mean, for us, it's really important to, if it's helpful and useful, to facilitate the process of getting it used as much as it can bring benefits. Yes, Andrea.
Yes, same. So I will be traveling tonight to Grasse. I will be the whole week meeting lots of suppliers that work directly with farmers. So if you have same like something that I can, because I don't have time to prepare anything, but if you have something that I can just share with the suppliers that I'll meet, because there will be all suppliers from the world, like from even some coming from India, Morocco, Egypt, Paraguay. So yeah, if I have that in hand that I can like share with them, it would be fantastic, because no one really knows about it, especially in the private sector and many actors in the value chain. And definitely. Thank you. I'll put my email here.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing your interest, and we can definitely share to begin with the materials that we've shared today, definitely. And we can have a quick call at some point if helpful to explore what other things could be useful. So yes, over to you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I also wanted to mention that we could also share any relevant information in the Global FS platform. We have an online discussion group with 2,000 members that are mainly facilitators and master trainers of the FS approach, and we have the website of the platform, and it is available if you would like to share any information or documents, and we could even see what we can do together as well.
Yeah, thank you, Zoe. That would be great. And yeah, maybe we can connect bilaterally as well to see where do we see potential opportunities for collaboration. It's always great to have that UNDP FAO dialogue. Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time today and for your energy and your passion. And I really look forward to continuing the conversation in other forums or bilaterally. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You.
It was very, very good.
Yes.
Thank you, Malika. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.